Chapter 4. Peer Support and Community. When my wife is at the playground with my daughter meeting other mothers with their children, they form a peer group. They do not think the child in the lap is a problem. Does peer discussion have to include a problem? Mothers share information, experiences and difficult situations together as equals. Peer dialogue is based on a sense of cohesion, similar life experiences, and common interests. A peer group aims to promote the well-being of its members and, in the case of mental health clients, support their healing. Many studies support the idea that peer interaction has an important role in helping a person cope with and manage his or her life. The person is not then a passive object, but a full-fledged participant. Groups receive insight, practical tips, and a strong sense of experience that can help its members through everyday life. Peer support and mutual aid is the core of community. We sign up to peer groups voluntarily, often through concrete action. Since like-mindedness does not, however, have to mean uniformity, communities will also introduce us to strangers. It may even increase tolerance for others and their differences. If you join a peer network of people suffering from asthma, it is only a starting point for social relationships. Through the network, you will open to other people with a range of different traits, including the disease, but it is only just one aspect. As previously said, the GFP model supports peer orientation through functionality and not just the disease. People can be brought together via also something else than just their diagnoses. Together we can produce something new. If the peer tutor of a guitar group knows 3 chords, the group can work together to find a 4th one. If it is not found, let's keep on rocking with 3 chords. The goal of a functional peer group is not to create to a new Eminem or Banksy. It's more about finding the same tone, doing things and being together. The land of 1,000 experts. In recent decades, the World Health Organization has drawn attention to the individual's disabilities and functioning. They may be due to illness or age having an impact on certain abilities. Also, the environment has an influence. A task may be easy in one environment and difficult in another. In many cases, reduction of capacity is not based on degradation of physical performance, but it is a question of weakened motivation. So, how do you motivate people? An external evaluator's objective assessment of someone's ability to function can easily focus on what the evaluator considers important and ignore the client's possibilities for self-assessment. However, in the GFP model of rehabilitation, the client is always in the focus. His or her needs are most important, and motivation starts from the client's interests, discarding our own roles, occupation, training, or philosophy. Are we focusing too much on the need of social health care to turn the client into a good citizen? In our society, work is defined too narrowly by offering employment only for those who reach the norm. Are there no other values? After all, would we leave someone in a desert island if the ship's first-class cabins were already booked? Companies are forced to hire 1 disabled employee for every 15 employees. Otherwise, the company will be fined. In Finland, it may be the healthcare client who faces fines or a waiting period if he or she does not manage to go to a psychiatric outpatient clinic at the appointed time, despite the fact that he or she might be afraid to travel by public transport. Do you know what the situation is in your country? We need a variety of work arrangements and part-time forms of employment. Work centers pay a small fee for a healthcare client. Why do we not pay also for functional peer tutors? They are participating in work center-like activities, where the direct beneficiaries in this case are the other healthcare clients. We live in a society of experts. We feel that we have nothing to give, or even that we haven't the right to do anything without proper training. So we leave other human beings out on their own because we feel that this requires an expert. Marvin Gaye's question, "What's going on?" is still relevant. Why do rehabilitation centers need to find a music therapist for music listening groups if we only need the ability to listen and press play on a CD player? The role of a music therapist is important and not quite so simple, but are we creating special trust in patients just because we are healthcare professionals? Or would the group be more confident if tutors were healthcare clients themselves? With good planning, staff support, and guidance, it should not be impossible. One interesting quality of therapeutic activity is that in the end, It is the client who does most of the work in finding solutions to his or her problems. The role of a therapist is to guide in the right direction. One should not forget the importance of therapy, interaction and relationships, but neither should it be overstated. If the goal is functional rehabilitation of the client, who needs more activity, personnel, or the patient? What is the worst that can happen when 3 rehabilitation clients meet around common interests, such as visual arts or drama? Could they somehow view the topic wrong? Do they not have the right to set up a group on their own without a formally qualified art therapist? Is the professional identity or value of the therapist somehow threatened? I think not. Do we need patients more than they need us? We can tolerate the question and consider it. A client too needs specialization. If a man with Down syndrome searches municipal services for his mental health problems, he needs a very good argument to get the service. He is already on the category of the mentally retarded. However, people belong simultaneously into many categories and different aspects are emphasized in different situations. The same applies to substance abuse work. An alcoholic or a drug user has a stigma, and the system has no resources to look at him or her as a whole. After all, one has such a wide field of expertise. Everybody is working in their own corner, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. The client's hands are in the air and no treatment or rehabilitation is given. My intention is not, however, to underrate the experts and professional staff, and I belong myself at least in the latter group. Professional help and peer support are not in competition with each other, but they can complement one another. Cannot it also be a positive challenge? Professional assistance is based on proven knowledge and experience. The special value of peer activity is based, in turn, in a sense of community created by similar experiences. Neither can replace the other. A peer relationship may also last longer than a relationship with a professional. Psychiatric outpatient service personnel change often, which is a structural problem. During 1 year, a client may meet 4 different psychiatric nurses or doctors. The client has to tell his or her story from the beginning over and over again and start building a new relationship. If staff sees the client only when making rounds, the time he or she will be given sums up to about an hour per month. Trust, however, requires long-term corrective experiences and a feeling of safety. Loneliness may cause mental health problems, and mental health problems may cause loneliness. It is a vicious circle. Many people who hear voices have told me that as painful as it can be, hearing voices is better than being alone in silence. When suffering from paranoid thoughts, one believes that the whole world is watching. The person is being followed because he or she is so significant. After all, which solitary person would not hope that everyone was interested in him or her, as evidenced by suggestive glances from strangers or TV news telling bad things about him or her? The person's words are attentively listened to all via the radio transmitter planted in his or her tooth. Even walls have ears. It is distressing, however, it is even more distressing that nobody is interested. Many people involved in functional peer groups have told that the voices remain in the background. They just do not need them anymore. They can then feel part of the group. In the group, someone is really interested in them, especially in what he or she does. The more social a community is, the healthier it feels. Sociability carries the meaning of enjoying the company of others. However, it is also much more. Sociability is, among other things, shared caring for one another and constructive curiosity. In a viewpoint from the fullest extent of neoliberal ideology, altruism is considered harmful because it does not confer any benefit for oneself. An altruistic attitude has, however, helped individuals survive harsh conditions with the help of others. Altruism means also a healthy self-interest, as it combines the advantages of societal and individual interests. Of course, I consider altruism beneficial from the perspective of rehabilitation. Sharing information and knowledge is like a donation. The donor receives a gift back when he or she sees that the gift is valued. It is useful not only for the one who received the gift, but, in the long run, also to the whole community. These days, the well-being and coping of mental health staff in their work is an important and popular topic. Could we therefore apply the ideology and methods of the GFP model also to the staff? That would mean inclusion, the chance to affect one's tasks, and a focus on the resources and the tasks in which the employee feels successful. This applies also and especially to rehabilitation professionals, the ones who carry responsibility. Can we design work and its content in a way that it will not excessively pressure the staff, but can even motivate? There has been talk about a multidisciplinary working environment. It includes doctors, therapists, nurses, social workers, etc. Could we extend interprofessional work to include an employee working using his or her own skills and interests, which he or she has in any case? Why don't we give employees the chance to bring theatre, visual arts, creative writing, music and sports into their work? Rehabilitation clients would benefit from it. Rehabilitation personnel should also have the chance and the space for empowerment. The working community should be put together so that the staff will have enough energy to do their work. Professional staff is a part of the community too. In comparison to other special groups, substance abuse and mental health clients are not given very much compassion. Tabloids are filled with survival stories of the same type. Women and men overcome a serious illness. People with mental disorders do not appear often on these headlines. In the media, they are usually shown in tragic light or because some accident has resulted. In these stories, they are not survivors. Rehabilitation homes do not enjoy great popularity among their local neighbors. Also, lack of information is obvious. Many interpret schizophrenia, even still, as split personalities. It is like one person, could be Simon and Garfunkel. I would venture to claim on behalf of myself and most of my colleagues that I have more fear for a drunken man in the taxi queue than someone with paranoid schizophrenia. Statistics say the same. Mental health outpatients present very rarely any danger to others, especially when their health is taken care of. Bullied, uncertain, sensitive people who have been crushed to the ground often turn their heads down when they face creatures from the same species. So how can we create services for a special group whose members characteristically do not demand any services or defend their rights? For such people, the expression outsiders is often used. They are suffering from mental health problems and isolate themselves from the society into their apartments despite all the services that could be provided for them. They disappear from the world. They do not exist anymore. They do not vote in elections because they do not feel that they are entitled to. They are regarded as strange, alienated misfits. They were classified as a juvenile problem and a social and a political problem. These people are also talked about in the context of exclusion. Maybe a more fitting expression would be the excluded. They are readily seen as young, lazy and stupid downshifters. But is it really downshifting if it is caused by illness-induced coercion and it is not voluntary? I have often wondered about the word crazy and how we use that word in language. Crazy nights, let's get crazy. To the less informed, crazy is also a general term that refers to people with mental health problems. If they call themselves crazy, conscious about how out of date the term is, I do not see there anything degrading. I do not want to keep any special group from having a sense of humor or consider of them so devoid of self-irony that they could not call themselves whatever they choose. However, it is different to diagnose someone crazy or psycho very lightly. For example, home diagnosing Anders Behring Breivik as schizophrenic is an insult to all the people in the world suffering from schizophrenia. Every mental health client should have the right to call themselves whatever they feel like. They have also the right to live at home with their name on the front door and lead the life they enjoy. Like the rest of us, no one can put restrictive ties on a human being as a punishment for expressing an opinion. It is important to recognize human rights violations and unnecessary use of power on mental health patients. It has been argued that all people suffer from varying degrees of mental disorders in some point of their lives. I think that it is, paradoxically, one of the reasons why mental health patients scare us. They remind us of our own weaknesses, which show in them clearly and manifoldly. Believe it or not, I have met people who still see mental problems as infectious diseases. One's own weakness is found infuriating but hard to admit, so exasperation is projected onto people with proven diagnosed mental disabilities. The out-of-sight, out-of-mind principle is still among us. The ship of madness is still in the port and taking new passengers. The unfortunate reality is that not everyone has the same favorable, safe starting points as so many of us. We, the lucky ones, can sometimes still give a little for those who have little. When one says something supportive and sensitive to a stranger, it may be more meaningful and far-reaching than one could ever believe. The outsider is really lonely. Showing compassion to those in need can also give a lot to the giver. It does not require any oath-sworn status of a helping professional or an expert. I think it should be our civic duty. Old-school care and rehabilitation methods and attitudes still nest in the societal structure. New methods, however, are making their way. The times they are a-changin'. An individual is already seen in a more all-embracing light. It seems that we are finally ready to see the strength in those who were previously considered completely incompetent. We are starting to understand that those who suffer from mental health problems have potential too. We can finally focus on prevention of social exclusion instead of closing our eyes. We can no longer afford to think of mental health clients as useless members of the society. This group is growing at an exponential rate, and the clock is ticking.